This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. I call this meeting to order at 6:05. The quorum is present. Okay, number 2, citizens' participation and comments. An opportunity for citizens to address the board on matters which are on the agenda or are not scheduled for consideration, non-agenda items. The Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits deliberation by the Hcedc board of any subject which is not on the posted agenda. Therefore, Hcedc board will not be able to discuss or take actions on items not listed on this agenda, other than to make statements of specific factual information or to recite existing policies in response to the inquiry. Note, in order to address the Hcedc board during this time or later in the meeting of any item that is scheduled on the agenda, please submit a speaker card to the administrative secretary prior to starting of the meeting. The presiding officer may ask the speaker to hold comments on agenda items until the agenda item is reached. Number 3, items of community interest. Okay, Monday, September 5th, 2022, city offices and the Hcedc Library will be closed in observance of Labor Day. The Hcedc Public Library is also closed Saturday, September 3rd. Number 4 are action items. 4.1, discuss, consider, and act to grant Trevino's Barbecue permission to utilize the 2 Hcedc Type B owned properties at the intersection of Schoolhouse Road and Westport Parkway as customer parking area. Any comments?
I would like to make a couple comments if I could. The reason why we wanted this on the agenda is that Mr. Trevino has started his business again, and there's a lot of parking that we own as far as the city of HCDC, and it's being used, and we want to make sure, from a liability standpoint and a trash pickup and a permission standpoint, that all those items are covered. And it's something that I think Mr. Trevino would like to speak to tonight, but that's the basics of it. Is we have a tract of land, and we just want to make sure that we're covered as an organization, that if something happens on the property during the operation of the barbecue pit, that it would be at Dustin Trevino's liability and not ours. And also a permission to actually use the property, since he does not own.
Any other questions or comments? I have one. I question whether we should allow this. I have no problem. My problem comes, should we allow this without asking for a token amount for this quote unquote lease, whether it's $10 a week or $50 a month or whatever, so that people can't throw it back in our face. Yeah, but y'all, why can't I park my car here? Y'all allow it on Saturdays and Sundays. So that's where I'm coming from. Any comments on that?
I agree. I would also like to ask if there's a term for this agreement. I don't see dates.
The agreement has not been drawn up. We're getting direction from this board. But first of all, the permission that he can do this. And then we're going to, if you say yes, if you say no, he can't do it, then there is no term. But if you say yes, we would like to allow him to do that. You give us the terms that you want and the duration, et cetera, and we'll bring forth a document that will address all this. We don't want to go out and spend, money on an attorney to take care of it. Yeah, tonight, what we would hope for is that you would say, yes, we want to do this. Please prepare the documentation to take care of the liability, trash pickup, etc. And then we will do it
Can we go ahead and set a term tonight if we wanted to? I mean, we could,
if you want to.
and we could also, any stipulations that we want in this,
Yes, absolutely.
would you call it a rental agreement or?
Well, I don't know if I want to call it a name right now, but we'll come up with
Some sort of
a
an
name.
agreement.
Mr. Trevino, we'd like to hear from you. Sure.
Nice. Thank y'all for having me, by the way. As you guys know, we came here for about an 8-week period. Let's say about 5-6 months ago. We saw a lot of success in the area. We were very happy with it. Personal reasons, we just being forthright. I mean, there was a lot of work to be done on the building. We'd had a prospective deal put together, and I'm glad we're talking about this tract of land. I appreciate the audience in this tract of land because initially there was a different, I guess Thad was the guy that initially talked to about this deal. And the original deal, which is something we'd still like to pursue if things would be open to, and I hate to try to ship one thing to another, but as y'all can see, when it gets busy, parking is a thing. I think we opened our back door that day. There were about 45 cars parked out there. And we know we don't own the land. But from a small business standpoint, one of the reservations we have about acquiring Mr. Lee's land at the price that he is asking is that without that parking, it is effectively a tough spot to be in, if you can make sense, if that makes sense. So the initial thoughts we had with the EDC under the previous administration, there you go, thank you, was to put a lease together with a right of refusal, first right of refusal to buy. We had set a price to the tract of land, and I've got to do some digging. I think it was 145, 165, somewhere around there, where I could acquire the land, acquire Lee's land, connect them. We had to rezone the two because I believe one was ag and the other may have been commercial, if I remember properly. The surveys were dated. We were going to have to resurvey them. There were things of that nature. But coming back to this deal, we realized how special of a place this is in general. We're not a corporation. It's my wife, myself. I've got a 9, a 7, a 5-year-old, and a baby on the way. That was part of why we went back to Jacksboro. We found out we were pregnant. Having my wife in a food truck, it wasn't conducive. She helps when she can. So talking about this today, it does bring up the serious point that to do what I think we could do out here and to be blessed enough to bring those types of crowds in, that parking space would have to be something that we would have to rely on in order to proceed making a deal with Mr. Lee for his property, because our fears would be that we would move forward on Mr. Lee's property, complete the renovation, which I just sent you guys a 4-page thing, tons of information. We are hoping to get in front of, is it RDC? DRC, in front of the DRC board. And we've been working with Mr. Thetford extensively about our plans to renovate the building. We put a rendering together. We're still working on site maps using our food truck initially, since we have a variance to the state of Texas to use it as a prep facility. Lee's needs a lot of work, but the idea was to renovate the building as a dining space, redo the inside, outside, extend the pit room, serve food out of the trailer initially until we can get everything combined and then potentially expand over time. Again, we're kind of a small mom and pop, so things like this take us time and they take us the ability to get on a set schedule. So while I am here today, I would like to pose the question on if that is something the EDC would still be open to as far as our talks with Thad were a long-term lease at a nominal token amount with first refusal to buy at the culmination of the lease at a set price for the land, which it was kind of in lieu of doing any type of EDC grants because they were looking at North Lakes grant proposals. I think it was something like $50,000, but they hadn't put one together yet at the time. So the thought was, and we had spoken with Mr. Halsey and with with Mike and with Thad about, well, what if we get you this tract of land at set price, and then you get leads, and then you can have this and kind of put it all together. So not to completely deviate from where we started, but that was when I was asked to come here tonight. I hope y'all don't mind me bringing that up, but that is something I would like to kind of put in front of you and see, because to be honest, unfortunately, without that option, let's say we buy Mr. Lee's and y'all sell that and they put a gas station next door. We're not going to be able to run a business there at all. And I don't think many businesses will be able to run there with 4 parking spots in a very busy intersection.
We can't address this question.
Oh, okay. I
So
apologize.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
We can only discuss what's on our agenda.
Oh, I apologize. I'm
Oh.
sorry. And I hope I didn't come off as hijacking y'all's meeting. I'm sorry. So on the agenda, yes, we would be open to some type of agreement. We do carry $1 million liability blanket. We have no issue with that. We would have no problem extending it over any type of personal damage or things of that nature that would happen on said property. We do feel that the parking is necessary and policing it would be tough as well, as far as telling people not to park there. I guess we could cover it, but if we were given the option to use it, it would be great as a resource.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah, just a point of clarification, when we mention the word policing, it doesn't mean somebody in a uniform. It means making make sure
I
it's
meant
clean.
me being able to tell people, hey, don't park there. Don't
No,
park
I'm
there.
talking it's about keeping the place clean.
Yes, yes, sir, 100%.
May I ask a question? So we know that you've agreed to keep the trash picked up after, I guess, at the end of each of your days that there.
Yes.
Would you also be willing to keep the property mowed if we get any more rain? I mean, the area that you're talking about right now is a little bit of grass over there. Would you even have the capability to do that? I mean,
Yes.
you're going to be in your food truck though, so.
We've got a local guy that comes out and keeps up on the property. He went by and did some weed eating the other day, so we could have him go out and cover that property as well. If we were to sign some type of agreement, well, I guess the barriers have to stay, right? Because that keeps people from driving through it when we're not there. Okay. That's fair.
Any other questions?
I was just going to say, we may be able to reconfigure that barrier so that it's not, so that it's more conducive to people being able to walk from that other side of the barrier over to your food truck,
That would be amazing.
but still block automobile traffic.
Are we interested in a nominal rental or usage fee? Would we think, I mean, we're not a charity and he's a real businessman an entrepreneur who expects to pay for what he gets.
I'm interested. Is there anybody else interested in that nominal fee? Or any objections?
I think that we need that fee as a, no, we're leasing this to the Trevinos. I would go with like $10 a month or something. Because as a small business, we all know that his margins are razor thin. He's got a lot of equipment. He's got a lot of upkeep and cost. And I think that this is a good business to have to encourage in the city. I don't think it's something that we need to try to make money on.
Can I say something? I also agree that this would be a good deal, a good business for Hazlet to have. And since Mr. Trevino has said that he would maintain the property, that cuts our expense as a board to have that area mowed. So I agree with the $10 fee a month to make it legal, that we are leasing the land at this point in time. So I'm in agreement.
And I have a question about the photograph that we're looking at here, Stephen. And Morris, this might be a question for you. Is Mr. Lee's building crossing a property line? It is.
It is right on the line, and one of the limitations we have if we were ever to want to, say, replace the building.
I want to know if we go with the nominal amount, can we limit it to no more than a 6-month period before we revisit that?
I don't see why not.
I mean, if
Can
things
we
are
have a
going
motion with all
gangbusters, then
these steps in it?
So I move that we authorize the city staff to put together an agreement that allows Trevino's Barbecue to utilize the 2 EDC Type B owned properties at the intersection of Schoolhouse Road and Westport Parkway. The terms will include his $1 million liability coverage, trash pickup, mowing, and he will pay a $10 month fee for the use of the property, if he is the right. Oh, I'm sorry, right, with it. And this agreement will go for no longer than 6 months. Sorry about that, Katrina.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any further discussion?
I have a question to
Ms.
ask if I
Morris.
could. Are you in conversations with Lee on purchasing his property still?
Yes, and to be forthright, it is very dependent on the additional land.
Okay. And I guess my question is, if somebody comes in here in the next few months and makes you a big offer and it's something that you really want, do you have any kind of recourse that you want to put into this contract? He mentioned first right of refusal or something like that.
Honestly, I don't think we can, part of this, but perhaps we should put it on the next agenda. I don't think we can include anything about him buying the property in this agreement.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about if we're going to have some kind of agreement. And this is going to be on your next agenda too, because we have some other things that are not considered here. And I'm just, for my own information, would you want something in the contract like that, or just make somebody wait for 6 months till?
How would that be worded more?
I don't know.
How could
That's,
it be?
yeah, that's one of the things that the attorneys will be able to help us with as they're, preparing documents.
So are we looking for wording that would, if something in the next 6 months, if an offer is made, that would protect Mr. Trevino through that period, or would allow us to get out of the contract? Or I
Well-
guess both.
Well, I think a little bit of both, because if Mr. Trevino says, yeah, I can make that happen, then he's got that, we'd have like a first right of refusal, then it would be his deal and not necessarily whoever else. There's just a lot of unknowns at this point. Hazlet is a hot place to be, and there's a lot of things that are in the work that we just don't know. We should make sure we cover ourselves.
In all fairness, 6 months is a really short time. I don't see there's a reason to, if someone came to us with an offer tomorrow, that we couldn't say, hey, we have an agreement with Trevino's for use for 6 months, and at that point, you can buy it.
Well, I agree with John, and I was just going to say that having been here for the last round of discussions on this, I know there was, in the original thing we offered, did have a first right of refusal. So I think at this point, we can say, yes, we agree that when we get to the part of an actual contract, we would like for that to be in, or we would be okay with that being in it. And
First right of refusal is actually a protection for him as
Yeah.
well as for us.
for everyone, yeah. And I don't have a problem with that. I think it's a good idea. And I don't think just saying that we agree that that should be in something going forward is not out of bounds for what we're here. We're not going to vote on that tonight, but we can just say. For leasing, yeah, for using that for a 6-month period.
That's what I'm going to do. Okay. Okay. Those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you.
If I may, and I know y'all's time is precious, to follow up on what Morris had mentioned, we do, and this is not a topic of major discussion, we do talk with Lee 3 to 4 times a week. We do have an agreement in principle. We do intend on buying the building and renovating the building, moving our family here and creating something in Hazlet. We are in the top 4% of barbecue joints in the state of Texas. We hope to be in the top 3% to 1% soon. We would love to have that be a part of this, and this community has kind of really been amazing for us. So when we ask about the adjacent land, for us, it's just trying to protect our interests in the sense of our biggest fear would be buying the property, being fortunate enough to continue to grow as a company and not having anywhere to put anybody. And our biggest fear is like having people crossing Westport and, Schoolhouse, because those are very, very busy roads and don't want people parking on the ditches like they used to before. So I just want you to know, like, we are truly, those are our motivations. So hopefully whenever we can call it to a meeting, I would love to come discuss things with you guys and see if that's something we can work out in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathleen, who's going to sign this agreement that Morris is going to have staff? Will it come to her? Will it have to come back to the board if it has these terms in it? Okay, so hopefully our next meeting. It's just really a couple of weeks.
All right. Moving on, 4.2, update regarding the sale of the Hcedc owned property located at 201 Highway 156. Morris?
At this point, we'd like just to put that on the back burner. the attorney's still working on that, and it hasn't been reviewed by the My Tai people, so it really needs just a,
Okay, we'll
No
have
action.
it on the next, our agenda at the end of this month.
May I make a request regarding that? When it's on our next agenda, can it be an action item? I feel like the board needs to sign off on it. And the way it is tonight, we would not have been able to. So, we could. But if we, even if it wasn't complete, if it was on, if it's in the verbiage, then we can, if we need.
Morris, is there any reason for us to go into executive session tonight?
no, ma'am.
All right. Okay, consider an act on any items from executive session, which we had none. Number 7, consider an act regarding items to be placed on the next agenda. On our September agenda, I would like placed these properties that we've been talking about and possibly putting up some sort of fencing to protect these properties and a gate which we can open for the cars to park on the weekend. So I'd like that on our next agenda, please. Does anybody have anything else to put on that agenda? Morris, do you have anything?
Yes, I'd like to have this agreement or this liability agreement on there so that you could look at, everybody can have a chance to look at it and approve it.
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
Yeah, I'd like to have the liability agreement that we're talking about with Mr. Trevino on the agenda.
Jen, have you got that, Katrina? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
And we're hoping for the Mai Tai too. Real update on Mai Tai.
Yeah. Well, that depends on if
Yeah.
the attorney has it and they've given it to my type to read and go.
If it appears to be fairly close, we'll put it on there since we have to get this out beforehand. And if it doesn't come to fruition, we'll ask you to put it on.
All right. So let's see. We are adjourned at 6:33.